Welcome into the SportWise podcast, episode 9, Steve. Can't believe we've done 8 of these already, this being the ninth. So we are here
Yeah.
on our typical recording time. We're going to talk this week, with it being Super Bowl week, we're going to talk top 5 Super Bowl memories. For me, this is going to be different than Steve because he's seen more Super Bowls than me. I don't want to get on here and talk about John Elway
That's
and
a
Joe
polite way of
Montana.
saying I'm older.
No, I don't want to get on here and talk about Joe Montana and John Elway because I didn't watch that. So that I have don't have any insight other than I've seen recordings of it. So
Yeah.
we're gonna talk top 5 moments, and then maybe at the end we can look at your hockey teams too, though, if we have time that we didn't get to look at
Yeah.
last.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And then, one other thing, just to let you know, I am working on baseball. So probably have that for next week. Just a teaser. I know we teased it on Sports Card Live as well, is the custom data solution. It's not generally available. It's only available to our internal team right now. But man, is it fun being able to like upload any data and uh, uh, we'll show it next week. But one of our leagues, CBS Sports, one of the leagues I play in, CBS, we don't have an integration with. And so this actually allows me to use SportWise and kind of manually integrate with CBS. So, anyways, I won't get too much into it, but we'll talk next week about it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for baseball season. I really am. It's about this time, we'll get past the Super Bowl, and then I'm ready. Like they can start baseball next week, and I'd be ready.
I agree. I agree.
All right, let's dive in a little bit here. Okay, we'll go in reverse order, I guess. So we'll go from 5 down to 1, I think would be
Okay.
best. And like I said, we're just gonna give out our favorite Super Bowl moments. If you guys want, you can let us know in the comments or anything like that, what your favorite Super Bowl moment is, or if you want to post your top 5 in the comments, I think that'd be good as well. Interested to see kind of what people remember fondly, or I guess not so fondly as well. But all right, Steve, you can lead us off here. Give me your number 5.
So we're doing reverse. Okay.
Yeah, so save the best for last.
Okay, and I've got I got a bonus one at the end. We'll put the bonus one at the end because I got
Yeah,
six.
we
But
can we'll do an honorable mention too at the end. That's fine.
okay, so 28-3 comeback. Um, the
Okay.
Tom Brady comeback. It's so funny because I remember I have a buddy that I play hockey with, and I think I mentioned this before. He's probably not listening, but he's a Falcons fan, and he's in our fantasy team. I think he calls his team the Falcons or some ode to the Falcons. And I remember thinking during the game at halftime, I was like, man, like he's gonna win a Super Bowl. Like I don't know many people in Calgary, Alberta that are Atlanta Falcons fans, and the comeback and the sheer devastation that he must have felt at the end of that game as a as a fan. I laugh, but it's cruel. Sports are cruel. Tom Brady's cruel. It's like almost inconceivable reflecting back that they were able to blow that lead.
Yeah, I mean, I won't give it away. That's definitely on my list. One of the more just insane things that I've ever seen. I mean, I still like if you go back and watch the second half or just like look back at it, it's like I still don't understand how that happened. It's been years later.
Yeah, and the crazy part, I'm sure you remember it better than me. I don't remember one particular moment that led to the collapse because it was just a calamity of errors.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it just kept like spiraling. You're like they scored once, and you're like, oh, there's no way. That's cool, and then it just kept
Yeah.
progressing.
But
Absolutely
that's
crazy.
why Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady are surgeons, because if you make mistakes,
Yeah,
they
they'll take
kill you.
advantage of it.
Then I go back to 2015. The Pete Carroll not running the ball with Marshawn Lynch into the end
Hmm.
zone, throwing the pass, picked off by Butler. Um, you know, so around here, there's a lot of Seahawks fans, so people were just like devastated, couldn't believe it. And even often I can understand the logic of a particular play, whether it's contrarian or whatnot, but I still to this day, and I watched all the interviews after the game with Pete Carroll and the decision making. it still doesn't make any sense to me. Um,
Jesus.
that was a extremely risky, bad play call and cost them the championship.
Yeah, I mean, you can say probably the worst play call in Super Bowl history for sure to not
Yeah.
just run that in. I don't know. Like hindsight's 2020 if they throw the ball in and win, like no, it's fine, you know? But like it's just the fact of opening it to the possibility. It wasn't even like there was like no time on the clock to where you could run it either. Like they just had to hand the ball off. Really,
Yeah.
even if you don't get it, like no
It's
harm, no
logical.
foul. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy, man.
And the other part too is throwing into a crowd of people. Like, why were you throwing, if play action out to the side and you throw it in the space, et cetera, okay, that makes sense. But literally throwing it, I don't even see that play on week 6 between two teams. They don't run that play.
Yeah. No, I mean it was like a predetermined play, but it just didn't make like you're on the goal line, like it's super crowded in there. I don't know. Very weird.
So that one definitely stood out in my mind. Go back to moving on to the next one, 2011, Rodgers MVP performance. It's funny because I always thought really like again, there's always Packers fans everywhere. And I've always thought really highly of Rodgers. Coming up under Favre, I've always thought that the Packers do a great job of grooming and then preparing the next quarterback. So Rodgers was a great example after Brett Favre, and then Love after Rodgers. And so when he went out, and it's funny, I'm sure everyone has watched the Netflix special with Aaron Rodgers. More recently, I was like, oh man, like maybe Rodgers is kind of crazy. Like maybe he isn't this like really finely polished execution machine, superstar, Hall of Famer, etc. Maybe he's a bit kooky. And then I watched the Netflix documentary recently, and it kind of reminded me of how good he was. Like how good he was for that time. And it's actually remarkable. It shows you how hard it is to win in the NFL, how they didn't win more during that period of time, like have another,
Yeah.
at least one more Super Bowl. And then how good he was in that particular Super Bowl. So this one, I think I probably would have had lower on the list if I hadn't just recently watched that Netflix documentary, kind of reminding me and giving me again an appreciation for who he is as a person.
Yeah, I think that documentary was very good. I watched it too. It was great. And it's pretty crazy that, like you said, so the Packers, they basically went from Bart Starr to Brett Favre, from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. But weirdly enough, and look, I'm not going to say this is bad. They've won 2 Super Bowls, but it's pretty crazy that they had so many years of Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and both of them only ever won 1 Super Bowl. It's pretty crazy. Like
I
when
know.
Aaron Rodgers won that, you thought he was going to win, you know, 3 or 4 in the next 10 years.
Well, and I remember thinking at the time, I'm like, man, he finally won one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then after, it's like, well, they're going to win every year, and then that was
hmm
it. And I
Yeah.
don't know. Again, I don't know. Is that on Aaron Rodgers? I don't think so. Like, there's times when Brett Favre lost, where at the end of the game, I was like, Brett Favre in the biggest moments would throw an interception.
Yeah, he was much more of a, I guess like I don't want to say gunslinger type because Aaron Rodgers can throw the ball too, but he would take more risks, I feel like, or make mistakes. Talent wise, I agree. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is like top 5 all time talent wise at quarterback.
Yeah,
I don't know. You can talk about winning and all that stuff aside, but just purely playing quarterback, he's probably top 5 all time for sure.
yeah. And again, my view on quarterbacks. I find it so funny in the documentary because I didn't really remember this at the time. How they graded him down, just the way that he holds the ball so high.
hmm
It's the craziest thing that
I know. I feel like that
like
that was like an old thing though. I feel like people used to do that more though. Like that used to be a
yeah.
thing.
Like I don't know, it seems like logically you're going to throw the ball from here. Why don't you hold it high and start the process from
hmm
there? But anyways,
Yeah.
so then moving on, this one was I've always been a little bit of a Pats fan, like even back in the Bledsoe days. I don't know why I gravitated to them. Even now. that they're not great. I still kind of cheer for them in the a little bit
Mhm.
behind the scenes. Um, uh, but the helmet catch in 2008, where Eli Manning essentially did what Josh Allen did last week or a week ago, and David Tyree caught it on his helmet.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was talking to somebody else who was like, well, Josh Allen can't win the big games. He would have made that pass if, he could win, but he's not a winner. I was like, Eli Manning threw it to a guy and he caught it on his helmet.
Yeah.
And everyone considers him an average quarterback, but a winner. I was like, that's just pure luck. Like if Kincaid had caught the ball last week, we'd be saying something completely different about Josh Allen, and it had nothing to do with Josh Allen. Uh, but that catch was insanity, and obviously, took us essentially, in my mind, stole Super Bowl away from the Pats.
Yeah, well, what's funny is, I mean, you can say David Tyree helmet catch. That's one of the most iconic catches and plays in NFL history. And when you look at these other famous catches, it's all like, big name players. You think about like, like whatever, like the catch, the immaculate reception, Franco Harris, Antonio Holmes, even like in the Super Bowl when he made that catch. Um,
Which
Terrell
I had that one.
Owens
I
has
had that one on my list as a consideration as well. But
Yeah, Lynn Swan, like T.O., like anytime you think of even Odell Beckham, right, was a high draft pick with his one-handed catch and stuff like. So when you think about these famous catches, it's all like big players, and then like arguably the most famous one of them all is just David Tyree, like this journeyman guy
yeah,
he's not known
random
for
guy.
anything else.
Yeah. Well, and like he is eternalized by that one play, and even Eli Manning to a degree. Like I remember the time it was like their team was held back. It was surprising that they were in the Super Bowl because they had, yeah, Eli, Peyton's younger, worse brother. They're lucky to be there because they don't really have a good quarterback. And then that play happened, and then they won the Super Bowl, and then he was considered a winner. And obviously they won another one, but
Yeah.
uh, it's just amazing how like these one little flashball moments in sports can really shape the narrative about that player.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And then I've got this one is a non-football related one. Uh, the controversial, whether it was intentional or a malfunction, in famous Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake wardrobe malfunction, which changed the buffer time for broadcasting so that they could cut, censor, and edit things. Changed
Yeah.
the rules of engagement for the halftime show. Changed Janet Jackson's career. Somehow Justin Timberlake was avoided any blame and shame, but Janet took a lot of it there.
No,
So unrelated, but it's one of those things that I think back to the Super Bowl. I also can't believe that was 2004, like 21 years ago. Like that's crazy to me.
yeah, I mean that's a great pick. I didn't like think of it, but when you wrote it down, like when I saw what you were going to talk about, I was like, oh yeah, that's a great pick because it is memorable. Like you said, it changed literally TV forever. And yeah, I mean, I remember it. I was like, so what, 2005 was 9? So I don't really remember it, but I do. Like I remember when it happened, it was like a huge deal. I didn't even know. I don't even think I was like a kid. I wasn't even watching the halftime show. I was probably running around, I didn't even see it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm sure your parents were like, "Oh, shield his eyes.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
completely inappropriate." That was right when was I still at university? I can't remember if that would have been. I might have. I can never remember the time frame of it. I might have been. It was either the last year of university or the year after, and I remember that one being uh, controversial, very, very controversial. Um, and then my last one, which is also while I was at university, which this one to me, and it's funny because I just saw the Aaron McNair documentary as well.
hmm
This one to me was if I think of a moment where I was sitting in a room and a play occurred. The David Tyree one would be up there. I don't think people didn't really react in real time to the wardrobe malfunction. It was afterwards that the reaction came. But the tackle, where Kevin Dyson stretches out to essentially uh, tie the game, or set up the PAT to tie the game and not get in. And like I remember at university watching it, and everyone was like, "They're going to score. They're going to score here." He caught the ball. There's space between him. Like all he has to do is run it in, and then Mike Jones tackles him, and he lays out and just does not quite get there. And I remember
Yeah,
everyone in the room was just like, this fabled story of the Titans is over. It was wild.
yeah, it's like the end of Friday Night Lights, the movie. Like it's literally like the same thing.
Exactly. Exactly. And like it was like, so much of sports is the Cinderella story where, that team gets all the way there, they win, miracle on ice, etc. But this was the example where it didn't work out and you couldn't believe it. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know, I think I was probably that year pretty invested in the Titans, um, because they were kind of I don't exactly remember, this is a long time ago, but if I recall it correctly, they were kind of like unexpectedly good. It
Yeah.
was that underdog story. So yeah, that was, and then if I that was the year that Kurt Warner won, right? 2000?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was another one I was going to put on the other side, the fact that Kurt Warner won. Um, because at the time it was like this guy worked at a grocery store and now he's going to win the Super Bowl. And like if you reflect back, that's actually not really the story.
Yeah.
It's not like he was just like a random guy working at a grocery store. But that was the storytelling at the time. So, the Titans don't score, and then the guy who works at a grocery store wins the Super Bowl.
It's not like when they brought that guy in the NHL game a few years ago, right? They brought that like the guy that like drives the machine around and he ended up
E-bug,
with
the
like all.
Zamboni. And
Yeah.
it's like, and the e-bug happens all the time. It's a very common occurrence. It's just not often that, your Zamboni driver, or I can't remember exactly because there's been so many of them. If it was their Zamboni driver beat the Leafs, it was the Toronto Maple Leafs
Yeah.
Zamboni driver played for the Carolina Hurricanes and beat the Leafs.
That's funny.
The only thing I will say for our non-hockey fans out there is most of the time these e-bugs or emergency backup goalies, these guys have played high-level hockey. They're not they're
Yeah,
not
it's not like
just
a some fat like some fat guy that's just
yeah,
like
yeah.
like to come
Like he
out of the
might be
crowd.
fat, but like the guy
Yeah, but
played
he
hockey,
still
yeah.
played before, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like in Calgary, they have a bunch of either college kids or ex-pros who are the e-bugs.
Interesting, interesting. I wish they did that for a quarterback, so that'd be hilarious.
I think it would be surprising, I bet you.
Like imagine like a 50-year-old like
Yeah, 50 might be. I don't know how old
like
that
just
guy
some
was.
like Brett Favre nowadays
Yeah,
still is like the like you had to bring
yeah.
him in for like a drive. That'd be pretty funny.
That would be like, even if you put a 50-year-old out there as a skater, that's way different than having them play goalie. Like goalie is the most important position in hockey,
Yeah.
but he's not getting hit.
hmm Definitely, yeah.
You put a 50-year-old out there
Yeah,
as as
a
a
50-year-old guy really couldn't take a hit at quarterback. I mean, he'd get
no.
planted one time and he would be like
Yeah, he
broken
was
in
too
half.
slow. As someone who's 43 years old and plays with 29-year-olds, I can tell you, uh, age makes a difference. It just naturally slows you down. But I did want to throw one honorable mention out there. So
Yeah, let's hear it.
this is an example that of I remember it for two reasons. So I would have been 4 years old at the time. This is Joe Montana versus Dan Marino. So I don't really actually remember the game, but I just remember as a kid how great Joe Montana was and how he was just kind of put on a pedestal, and then how great Dan Marino was, but he was known as a loser.
Right.
And I loved the movie Ace Ventura with Jim Carrey, and Dan Marino's
Classic.
obvious in that. He's kind of the focal character. They're trying to steal the ring, laces out, Einhorn. I forget what the famous, but the cop is the holder, not the cop. The criminal is the holder. But anyways, just that particular, the fact that Dan Marino was so good. It's the only time he went to the Super Bowl, didn't win, and then never made it back,
Yeah,
which
it
is
would have
kind of
been like
shocking.
Rodgers versus Brady,
Yeah,
and then because Rodgers has never been back since he won that one. Even all those
exactly.
years they'd get the number one seed, get a bye week and lose.
Yeah, exactly. So I just want to throw it out to the 80s because Joe Montana and Dan Marino were just those focal points of kind of my childhood. There's a bunch of other characters in there, but they were always the two big quarterbacks in my mind, and it was always Dan Marino's better than Joe Montana, but Joe Montana can win.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I've heard that too. Obviously, I wasn't alive back then, but that is definitely most people, older people, when I ask them, they like say Dan Marino was better. It's just he wasn't. They never won, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and so much of it's put on the quarterback, but there's a whole team. The reverse.
Yeah.
Eli Manning becomes a winner because David Tyree catches on his helmet. How many drop passes, how many.
Yeah. And it's so, I mean, the margins are so thin in like a one game, a Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think that, like, yeah, I can't even remember. I have to go back and look, but I don't even think Marino ever got close again.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know. Or th I don't think he did anyways.
Yeah. All right, well, that's my list. I gave you six.
Yeah. That's a good list.
Uh,
Very solid list.
yeah, I had to go back year by year.
Yeah. All right. For mine, number five, this is way more recent. Like I said, these gonna be more recent than yours just because I have really been paying attention recently. So number five, I'm taking Patrick Mahomes winning his first Super Bowl because
Yeah,
it kind of was like I've been a big fan of his since he came in the league, and it was kind of like he's gonna be the next guy. And then he finally went there, he won it, and then now since that's transpired 5 years ago or whatever it was, like he's just been continually. I mean, he's been in the AFC Championship game every single year. He's about to have a chance to be the first ever to three-peat. Like clearly, it wasn't a one and done, and they've
yeah.
been just as good. So that depending on how his career ends out, that could even move up farther, just because I've been able to watch his entire career basically. So that was my number five.
But I always forget because the first one he beat Brady, right? Is that the one where he beat
No,
Brady?
the first one he beat the Jimmy Garoppolo 49ers. They were losing by 10, I
Right,
think, going into the fourth quarter. They came back and won.
right, 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 right. It was the second one that he beat Brady.
No, he lost to Brady in the Super Bowl when Brady was on Tampa.
Right, 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 right. Because what I'm trying to lead into is um on the broadcast them talking about will he be able
Yeah.
to catch Brady? And you
Yeah,
fast forward to today and you're like, "Whoo."
he's on the trajectory. A lot of
Yeah,
people, I don't know if they're just Brady fans or Mahomes haters, because I don't. There's clearly a lot of people that don't like Patrick Mahomes, but the popular narrative is like he'll never pass Brady because Brady beat him twice in the playoffs, and it's like the only two times he's lost. But I mean, if you're going by that logic, then you would say Eli Manning's better than Tom Brady because Eli Manning beat Tom Brady in two Super Bowls. Like it's not a one for one comparison, I
no,
don't think. Like the team is way different. Um, and yeah, I mean, if he three-peats, he'll be the first ever quarterback to three-peat. There's never really been anyone that's been this consistently. Like I don't even know like who's gone to seven straight AFC Championship games to start their career, right? I don't think anyone other than him. Like it's I don't know. He's on a trajectory. You'd have to keep it up, but it's hard to see
yeah,
him slowing down right now. As long as he has Andy Reid, I don't know. It's gonna be tough.
yeah, yeah. I completely agree. And the only thing that like they keep and even Brady was often on the wrong side of some of those close games back in the day, and they won a lot of close games. Is at what point do all these little things just stop working and they lose the close game?
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
that's the only thing that's in the back of my mind is that it's not like they've been going out there, they're dominant, but it's so tight. Like they're the
Yeah.
equivalent of a 2-1 hockey team. And
Yeah.
you get a couple of bounces the wrong way, and it all ends.
It's crazy, but I mean, it's kind of like I feel like a lot of people have talked about quote like Tom Brady luck, like he always was lucky in his career. And I think Patrick Mahomes has like that Tom Brady luck, and I think he's better. He's even better skill wise as a quarterback. Not saying Tom Brady's not good, but I think just raw skill. I think Patrick Mahomes is better than him, and somehow has this just insane luck. Like
I
I
agree.
think they've won. I was looking it up last night when I did my Super Bowl like blog. I don't know if it's like 10 straight one score games or something they've won in a row or I don't know, something crazy.
It is nuts. The last thing I will say, and this is I think one thing that Tom was exceptional at is staying healthy. And as Patrick Mahomes gets older, like, there's a whole bunch of times you're like, well, he can't play through this. He just got rocked. He's injured. And then he trots back out there and plays
Yeah.
fine. Eventually that catches up with you. Like you just can't beat Father Time, especially if you're getting hit hard all the time. And I know recently he's been diving a lot, which I think factors into,
Yeah.
taking advantage of it. But that angers people. People will hit you harder if they know that they're
Yeah.
going to get a penalty anyways. So
Hmm.
there's a little bit where Tom was able to stay healthy. And he had his injuries, but stay healthy for so long because of the style that he played, the way he takes care of his body. But I don't know if Mahomes is on the TB12 diet and doing all the stuff that Tom is doing. Maybe he is already, but that's the only other thing. And this isn't being a Pat Mahomes hater. It's more, he's still got to. These are going to be the hardest years of his career.
Hmm. No, I agree. And like, I don't know, that longevity, there might never be another quarterback that has that longevity that Tom Brady had, like to be as consistently good. Like, because even when a lot of times they'll just kind of trail off, like he probably still could have played another 2 years. Like, I don't remember when like Drew Brees was at the end of the Saints, like he couldn't throw the ball.
Yeah.
Tom Brady his last year,
Well,
I
even Kirk
actually,
Cousins this year.
yeah, like these guys can't move. Like Drew Brees literally couldn't throw the ball his last year in New Orleans. But I was at Tom Brady's last ever regular season game in Tampa, and he just looked like he still could have played another like 3 years. Like he was fine.
Yeah, that's impressive. That's very impressive.
Yeah. All right, number four. This is memorable for me because I was a huge Peyton Manning fan growing up. But when the Colts, the moment I'm going to bring up here is Devin Hester taking the opening kickback for a touchdown in that game, and then especially years later when you find out that Tony Dungy had practiced all week not kicking to Devin Hester, and then gets in the game and he's like, "Oh, just kick it to him. He's not going to take it back," and then he took it back for a touchdown. It's absolutely crazy. But I remember
Yeah,
watching that, and everyone was like going crazy at the Super Bowl party I was at.
yeah, interesting. Of note, when we were at the Fantasy Football Expo, the because I think Devin Hester was just inducted into the Hall of Fame, if I
Yes.
remember
Yep.
correctly, last year,
Hmm.
and so they had a big presentation, his shoes, his jersey, etc., for Devin Hester. So he's one of those guys that kind of forget about. And then you think back to all the like big plays and big moments. Again, he's a big moment guy. So yeah, I think that's a
Definitely.
great one.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, I don't know if it's ever, that might be the only time. I should have looked that up. That might be the only opening kickoff ever taken for a touchdown in the Super Bowl. I don't know for sure. Someone can fact check me in the comments on that, but
I can't imagine. I can't remember any other one.
I can't remember another one. Yeah. Pretty crazy.
I can't even remember another one that's been run back.
I know. I'm sure there has like, I know there's been like pick sixes and all that stuff that have been long. Like James Harrison had like that 100-yard pick six or whatever against the Cardinals, I remember, but I don't know about a kick return.
Yeah, we'll have to check that later. Well,
Yeah.
that's a
And
good
then,
one. It's a good
yeah.
memorable moment.
And then my top three are all ones that you had as well. So at three, I had the helmet catch. I do remember I was pretty young, but I remember I was at one of my friend's house for Super Bowl party, I remember that helmet catch. Everyone there was going crazy because Tom Brady was not popular in my area, so I don't think I was distinctly rooting for the Giants, but it was very everyone was rooting for the underdog at the party I was at. And then Malcolm Butler pick. I mean, we talked about that, like just the insane decision not to run the ball there. And then number one is the Tom Brady, like 28-3 comeback is crazy. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I
yeah.
mean, like I said, that's more recent for me because I didn't see like some of these other ones that you talked about, but I don't know. It's gonna be tough to pass that up for me, like moving forward. There'd have to be some pretty crazy stuff to beat a 28-3 comeback in a Super Bowl.
Well, I completely agree because the storyline is the least believable. The interesting
Yeah.
thing about it is it didn't have one moment in my mind. It's the same thing. The other one that I was considering is the Nick Foles uh, win because in
Hmm.
my mind I was like, I can't believe they're going to win with like their backup quarterback, and I think he caught a touchdown pass if I remember correctly. Like
Yeah,
it was just
that would be my honorable mention. It's just that play is iconic and just the fact that, Carson Wentz went down in the middle of like an MVP season or towards the end of it, I guess. And then they were big underdogs in pretty much every playoff game.
yeah,
And then they were underdogs in the Super Bowl, obviously, and still win one.
yeah. But it's one of those ones where there was that iconic play, but the Nick Foles one, it's the storyline,
Yeah.
you know, that's just so almost unbelievable. And that's the 28-3 comeback for me. It's the whole, like, if you put that in a movie, you'd be like, this isn't believable. I like watching movies that are somewhat believable. I
Yeah.
can't believe this.
Julian Edelman did have that crazy catch. It was like that. If you went back and watched it, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, I remember that." I don't remember what it was
Yeah,
late in the game. He had like that fingertip catch. I do remember that as like an iconic moment. I can remember James White. So this is like very early in my content creation years that comeback, and they do postseason fantasy football leagues, like where you have to take one player from every team, and you can only use one player from every team, and it goes throughout the whole playoffs, and then when you get to the Super Bowl, you get two times points for your players. So there's a lot of strategy that goes into it.
yeah,
Um, and I can remember I had split a team with one of my friends and like other people that I was friends with, and we all had James White as our Patriots. Like we went with a lower owned Patriots guy, and we won a ton. That was like one of my first ever big like fantasy football money wins because James White just went insane. I don't even know what his final stat line was. Let me see here. He
oh,
finished
you
with
just rocketed up like you were in
yeah,
like
we yeah,
fifth,
we
and then
yeah, we weren't even close. We were like outside the top 20, I think, and we ended up coming in
wow,
first place. It was a huge win for us because he finished he we like I said, we got double points for him two times and nobody had him. Anyone that had Patriots guys had Tom Brady or Julian Edelman. Or they had like LeGarrette Blount had a lot of touchdowns that year that some people had. So we had like Julio Jones, who was the popular Falcons pick, and James White. James White
yeah,
had 14 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown.
yeah. I love those.
And then he had two
I love
touchdowns
those.
rushing too. So he had three total. The fact that James White had three total touchdowns, 14 catches, didn't win Super Bowl MVP, that's robbery.
That is robbery. The other thing about the 28-3 is, in my eyes, that was kind of, mainstream Barstool. Because they had so
Yeah,
much content
yeah.
around, obviously being Boston guys, they had so much content around it, the t-shirts and the just the like tormenting the Atlanta Falcons fans. So it was like the first example where in social media you just saw an unbelievable amount of mainstream content regarding the game.
Yeah, and I think I was talking the other day to some people. We were talking about like best teams of our lifetime that like never won a championship or never won a Super Bowl. That Falcons team has to be up there because they had Matt Ryan and Julio together for so long.
Yeah.
The
Matty
pretty much
Gunslinger.
yeah, pretty much their entire careers were tied to each other and they should have won that one, but that was like their only real chance and they just I mean, messed it up. Never got another good crack at it.
Yeah. Yeah, there is, it's funny, when you get older, you watch a team and I hate to say it, but like, are the Buffalo Bills that right now? Where
That's
you
what
like,
sparked this conversation. We're like, are they going to
yeah,
be one of those teams that never win, but they're
yeah,
so good? And it's like they might be
yeah,
because
yeah.
we were
I
trying
think
to
that,
like they might be the best team of my lifetime that's never won. Like if they continue on and they don't win, because I think the Falcons are right there, and like the Bills in the '90s, like it's the same thing. They went to four straight Super Bowls, didn't win, But I was trying to think of like another team that was like consistently good that didn't win a
well,
Super
the
Bowl.
other team is the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Four,
saying. It's like
four
just a
straight
snake.
Super Bowls.
There's like a snake bitten team.
Yeah, I'm trying a little bit of like even right now, and we'll see if they can get over the hump. But like, Joe Burrow's in Cincinnati.
Yeah,
They seem like they could, but they just can't figure it out. They lose all those games at the start of the season.
yeah. I would put the 49ers are in there too, just because since they've gotten Kyle Shanahan, they've had different quarterbacks, Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Purdy, but they've still went to two Super Bowls, couldn't win either of them.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like, is McCaffrey going to be able to come back from this injury? Like, I don't know. Like, they're kind of in a weird situation, but I mean, they went to two Super Bowls in 4 or 5 years, couldn't get it done. So they'll probably go down as one of those teams unless they win next year or the year after, I guess, because Debo's getting older and George Kittle's getting older.
I completely agree. And it's funny, transitioning to hockey, the Edmonton Oilers, are they
Yeah,
going to waste Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid's best
yeah,
years?
yeah. That's
We'll
tough.
see. Uh, do we want to look at my hockey teams? We got a few
Yeah, if
minutes
we,
left.
yeah, yeah, we got a couple minutes here.
Anything we want to finish up on Super Bowl? Actually, maybe before we move on, what is your prediction for this
Yeah, let's do
weekend?
that. I saw a good tweet from someone. I can't remember who tweeted it, so forgive me, but someone said they like tweeted at FanDuel Sportsbook. They're like, "Can I bet on the Eagles for the first 58 minutes of the game?" Like that is just
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. As I'm a big Jalen Hurts fan, I wear Eagles gear all the time on the streams. I'm not an Eagles fan per se, but I root for him because Jalen Hurts is my favorite player. He's been my favorite player since he was at Alabama. So as much as I would love him to win a Super Bowl, I mean, I have to think the Chiefs are going to win again. I don't know. It's such an interesting dynamic because the Chiefs, the one way to beat the Chiefs has been their run defense. Like James Cook was gashing them with big runs, right? They just stopped running the ball. The Eagles won't stop running the ball. So I think they can take advantage of that matchup, but you also have to think Steve Spagnuolo is going to have something, he's going to know to stop Saquon Barkley. So I don't know. You can go either way there. Eagles defense is very good, but it's probably gonna come down in the last 5 minutes. And it's like if that's the case, it's like you have to lean Mahomes if it comes down to the last 5 minutes. So I'll go Chiefs right now. I want the Eagles. I'm gonna pick the Chiefs. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah. It's funny. So I went uh last year, I picked the Niners. And I used the same model that we've been covering kind of on a weekly basis to compare the statistics. And if we go back to our power rankings for the season, the Eagles are higher
Way
than the
higher.
way higher. And if you compare them directly, the data tells you that the Eagles are going to win. Uh, Even last year, even when they were in the only time I doubted them winning the Niners is the coin toss. I was like, wait a minute, what are you doing here?
Oh yeah, that whole thing. I honestly forgot about that. Yeah, that was a whole thing. I totally forgot about that
I was like,
until you just
you're
said
gonna
that.
give them the ball last? I was
Yeah,
like,
that was
this
insane.
seemed like a mistake for who you're playing against here. Like, you want the ball last.
Well, yeah, go. So there we go. Going back to Patrick Mahomes being lucky. That happens. They just give him like they make the wrong decision on that. I mean, one of the arguably the 49ers best defensive player other than Fred Warner, like at the beginning of the game just tears his Achilles running onto the field.
Yeah,
Like these sorts of things don't happen. And then but they
yeah,
somehow do.
yeah. So I picked the Niners last year. They were the performance favorites. I'm picking the Eagles this year, performance favorites. But I
Okay.
will say that there is that doubt in the back of my mind that if it comes down to the last 2 minutes and they're within range. So if you're the Eagles, you need to go out and you need to put up points early. You can't let them hang around. You can't make any mistakes. You just got to go
Yeah.
and beat them, and you got to beat them like by a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I put that in my I have a blog up on rollinginsights.com stats to know for the Super Bowl. What was it? The team that has scored first has won 63% of Super Bowls.
Yeah, so they got to score first.
Got to score
And
first.
I don't think they're gonna be able to stop Saquon. Uh, I think that it'll be 60 minutes of him, which will open up everything else.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm gonna go. I have a prediction. So if the Chiefs win, Patrick Mahomes is gonna win Super Bowl MVP. We've seen it 3 times already. Like they're not
yeah.
gonna give it to anyone else. But if the Eagles win, we could see some other stuff. So I'm gonna go. I already have a ticket on Barkley to win Super Bowl MVP from before the playoffs started. We talked about that on the
Oh,
live streams. So
yeah.
that was like 23-1 or something. We got that at. So feeling pretty good about that. But if I'm gonna go Devonta Smith, this is my actual prediction. Devonta Smith, Super Bowl MVP. He's gonna score 3 touchdowns.
Really?
That's my that's my bold prediction.
I like it. That's out of nowhere. I did not think you were going with that. I thought you were maybe going to go like AJ Brown,
Hmm.
resurgence, has a great game, Hollywood.
I'm gonna go Devonta Smith, and I don't remember how many. I think only like 2 people have done it. I'd have to go back and look, but he won Heisman, national championship, and then Super Bowl. If the Eagles win, he's like one of like
Yeah,
2 or 3 ever to win the Heisman, the national championship, and then
yeah,
the Super Bowl. But I'll just top it off with the Super Bowl MVP too. Why not?
yeah, yeah. That's a good one. I'm picking Saquon Barkley,
Definitely, yeah. I
Super
mean,
Bowl
that's the
MVP.
yeah. If the Eagles win, it's going to most likely be him, and then that would be cool because it hasn't happened since 1998. It's been a long time.
Yeah. And again, it just drives that knife into Giants fans, just right into
Oh,
the side.
Will, if you're a Giants fan, let us know.
Yeah,
Are you rooting against him or are you rooting for him
yeah.
in the Super Bowl? Like what
You
are
have
we?
to cheer for him. It's the same way we were, the Flames were cheering for the Florida Panthers against the Oilers last year. But,
Yeah.
Daniel Jones will be in attendance because they're buddies, which
Yep.
is, probably put salt in the wound. But it's going to be an interesting game. I haven't bought a ticket yet, but I got to do that soon before the closing lines.
Yeah.
All right, do we want to quickly look at my teams, my hockey
Yeah, pull
teams?
them up. Let's take a look.
Okay, I'm just going to get this. All right, so we're going to look at my, so actually, this is my Fantrax League first. And sorry, I've had cold all week, so I'm a little bit stuffed up. But just going to refresh. Can't remember if we've looked at this one at all. So this one's integrated. This is on the Explore page, the community marketplace. So if anyone's in a Fantrax league for hockey, you can come in and this one's already integrated. The scoring for this particular league is goals, assists, plus minus, PIMs, shots on goal, power play points, hits, blocks, face-offs. And what I've done is I've used a weighted Z score to create a single value for all my players, a single ranking. And so a Z score essentially normalizes the data from each category, and it takes because it uses standard deviation, it takes into account it takes out distributions. So if you've got one player that has 500 penalty minutes, and then everyone has a normal amount of penalty minutes, it squashes that distribution because the standard deviation accounts for those kind of groups as you look at the distribution curve. So Z-score is one of my favorite ways. I think we talked about it previously. I think I tried to, for our team performance tool, try to build it on the fly, math on the fly, not my thing. but given time and not on camera. And then the other thing that I did is I actually have weighted it. So I muted uh, face-off wins because again, it's one of those things where it inadvertently overvalues centerman, um, which you can kind of take into consideration. So I can turn that down by 50%. And then I have essentially eliminated the value of plus minus because you don't accumulate on a game by game. It goes up and down in hockey. You're on the ice for a goal, you get a plus. You're on the ice for the other team score, you get a minus. So everything else is an cumulative stat by game that grows by time. But you could be end a season +1 or -10 or whatever. So it's important to factor in each week. Uh, but it's not one of those ones that when you look at a player's overall player stats for the year, it can kind of misweight things. It can overvalue them. So when we look at my team, we in our league, I think I mentioned this in another one, but we used all NHL teams so people don't come up with ridiculous names. The ridiculous names are fun, but then it creates a whole bunch of problems with everyone changing their team names all the time. And you don't know who to trade with. So we assigned NHL teams to ourselves at the beginning of the year. But I got a pretty good squad. Now, I will say last week, this guy's got a good team too. I lost to the Sabres. And so I lost by one assist. We would
Wow.
have tied if I had one more assist. He beat me in all four goalie stats, which uh, that's a whole different story. Um, but I went through and I looked at, kind of collectively our teams. So he's got McKinnon. I got Werenski. This guy was a drafted player this year. This is a keeper league. So to be able to pick someone up who's your highest performing in the draft, like essentially the 130th pick and onward, like that's
Hmm.
insane, like unheard of, unless it's someone like, Celebrini, etc. Then he's got Connor. I get Stutzla. He's got Zads, which I was shocked when I saw this that Zads is having such a great year in Boston. He played for the Flames.
Yeah.
He's one of these guys who's played on like seven teams already. He's just this constant castaway. When you look at him, he's a mutant on the ice. So it's good to see that he's getting the performance recognition. I got Boldy. I got Nikash. We've talked about him on Colorado. I'm expecting a spike on that because he's now playing with Nate Dogg.
Yeah.
He's got
Yeah, that
Matthews. I
that
got
Morensky stuck out to me. Like when you had up everyone, like he was like top 10 overall.
yeah,
And I know I have him in our league for like the Rolling Insights League. I thought that was crazy that he's that high up for everybody.
yeah. And the crazy part is if you look at it, he's got 57 points in 53 games for a
That's
defenseman.
actually insane.
40. He's the best American defenseman right now. Like going in the Four Nations Cup, he's
Yeah,
the
that's
best American defenseman.
crazy.
It's not Adam Fox. It's Zach Werenski. And to be honest, he always had a high pedigree. He just kept getting hurt. So people kind of, you know, discounted him. He's got 18 power play points as a defenseman. But the crazy part is he's also got 92 blocks
Oh my God. It's
and
crazy.
200 shots on
200,
goal.
200 shots on goal is wild.
Nate has 218.
Yeah, he's just ripping puck. He doesn't care.
This is like Ovi level. But Werenski's right behind it.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy.
the crazy part is I actually am shocked that his power play points aren't higher because one of the things that they, calculate is the actual true play of a player is power play or sorry, your points minus your power play points. So your 5-on-5 points. This is great. Like you compare it to all these other guys. He's above all of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Wow.
He's below Nate. Is he below Nate? Yeah, he's below Nate, but Nate's a superstar. There's other guys even below. So, anyways, the data doesn't lie. It's actually amazing when you kind of come through and you take a look at. I should have 50 guys here. You'll look at it. Pretty evenly matched. The other thing that I thought was interesting is if you look at the bottom of his team, he's got a whole bunch of dead weight. I actually traded a mirror.
Yeah. Interesting.
But it proves that if you got the top guys, that's where your money is in all these fantasy leagues. Everyone spends all this time chipping away at the waiver wire, and it helps, but you got to get top guys.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I wanted to comment on for all those folks out there is just how important goaltending is. So I'll bring up my team versus his team. So I started the year with pretty good goaltending. Um, right now, we have minor spots because it's a keeper league. Oh, and I'm just looking at the time. We'll have to duck off here. I've got minor spots, so I don't even have Wolf playing, but he's my best goalie. So I'm sitting here going, I've got a goaltending problem. Even though my goalies are better than his, I lost all goalie stats last week, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I activate him and lose that minor spot and have to let somebody go. I platooned the Vegas Golden Knights, so I have Hill and Samsonov. That was working for a little bit, but it's not working anymore.
Yeah.
They're such a good team. They win so many games. Their goalies are not great.
Yeah, it's not that good.
So, anyways, we can go deeper into this on another day. Next week, I really want to focus on Super Bowl and then get your insights. Help me with my MLB because I've got to make my keeper selections.
Yeah, and
Uh,
then we've got to prepare. We've got this big draft coming up in Vegas here soon too, so we gotta ramp up for that.
yeah, exactly. Did you confirm with Digger if you replaced me? Did I
Yeah,
get?
he didn't respond back. I'll have to circle back up with him.
It's
I think he's
like
been busy.
that means I did. It means that my performance the last two
You
years
got
has been so poor that I got relegated.
well, regardless, like you'll be with me. Like we're still splitting this one, so it's like
Yeah, yeah.
you'll still be
No, it's
with me.
just funny. It's like your company is still allowed to participate in the expert league, but Steve
But you
himself has performed so poorly we
just
can't.
kicked you out.
That's good. Hey, I'm okay with it. 2 years of finishing in the bottom few is not good. It's a tough league though. There's a lot of good players in it in all those leagues.
Yeah, it's good. Definitely.
Cool.
All right. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Like I said, if you're watching it, let us know in the comments your favorite Super Bowl memory. We'll see. I'm sure Jeff Robinson, if he listens to this, he'll give us a little chime in. What do you possibly think his favorite Super Bowl memory is? Probably that Janet Jackson one, if I had to guess.
Yeah, it's definitely out there. I don't know. Robinson loves a good Super Bowl party. It would probably be like a big moment, because he's less of a kind of football fan and more of a pop culture fan. So
Hmm.
I suspect it would be like the helmet catch or the
Yeah.
Butler interception or something along those lines.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. We'll see you then.
My team.